Scrolling through all the LOLs. Yes, Val told me about the mines. That's why I made that little joke. She laughed. You want to know about library school student activities in SL as well. Alexandra, if that's a question for me, yes, I think that that's a very important part of the library community in Second Life is the library students that are in SL. There's so many of them, and of course San Jose and a couple of other programs still run a lot of stuff in SL for their students, so I think that that's definitely something to make sure that we include in the community as a whole. Will ALA help CVL with funds and fundraising to keep this space? I don't know that that's within my power. It's a good thing. I'll make a note of it and go back and see what in the association than I as a staffer do. The way that our organization works, and one of the reasons that I love my job is that I work for you guys. Ultimately, ALA, my administrators and stuff, sure, they pay my salary and track my time and stuff like that, but ultimately I am responsible for answering to you. So I work for you, and if you start pressing ALA staff to get support for the things that you're doing in here, then, you know, it reaches critical mass. So I can't stress enough how important your voice is in gaining that support. I hope that that answered the question over on. Okay, I'm scrolling past some of the comments that aren't questions, so just FYI. Because I know we have other things on the agenda to get to, so I kind of wanted to answer questions and then turn it back over. How many people at the Midwinter meeting? The number that I saw was 10,000, but I usually don't kind of look until late today or early tomorrow at what the final numbers are. That was the number I heard tossed around today. Yes, Hyacinth, member interest groups do not charge for membership, so that is, and you know, there's some dynamic things that member interest groups can do. That virtual learning conference that we did in SL a couple of years ago is a really good example. That was a really ambitious project that the member interest group pulled off, and it, you know, that really shows what a member interest group can do. So the upside is that there is no money involved, but the downside is we make you do a lot of work. So it's a lot of work involved. And I'm making sure to read out the questions on this end so the people that are here in the room can hear the questions as well. Okay. Kay, if we run into problems with ALA, do we take them up with you? You certainly can. I am by my nature as a liaison, your advocate to ALA staff or ALA in general. So you can certainly bring your problems to me. I definitely think that if you're a member of a division, you should also think about bringing them to your division as well. You know, you guys have the luxury of being able to talk to the staff and tell them what you're having problems with and try and work out a solution. But certainly send your stuff to me. If it's not something that I can solve, I'll find somebody who can work on it. We have a few people here in the room. Oberon. No, Hyacinth, I'm not the liaison for the ACRL group as well. Although I mean, given that we're such a closely knit group, I do as much as I can to advocate for you on that end as well. Should SL be useful for helping with RDA training and adaptation? That's a very good question, much better answered by the librarians in the group. Okay, I think I've reached the end of the question, so I'm going to turn Val's avatar back over to her.
There's a, you can look there and see if you answered all of those that are on the slide coming up. Okay. All right, this is Val back, and I'm going to come up here and change our slide in world so people here in the physical room can see that what you all are seeing in Second Life. And I have agreed to chair both interest groups for the upcoming year until perhaps there's somebody that wants to chair each of those. But I'll be chairing the ACRL with some help from Marcia Hyacinth, who has done it the past couple of years. I spoke with Tina today about the direction of the groups within Second Life. Okay, Hyacinth's asking, please let us know who's there in the room with you. Okay, we've had a couple in and out, and we have a couple of gentlemen in here right now, and I don't believe that they're real familiar with Second Life. So I'm going to pull back and kind of pan all of you so they can get an idea of what this looks like, and also explain to them that behind each one of these hovering little things is an actual real-world librarian. And they're basically from all over the U.S. as well as, and one of the questions when Oberon said something about CVL, you know, CVL, the Community Virtual Library, is really a global community, not just American Library Association. There are librarians in as far away as, you know, the UK, Australia. Recently we did the Mayan exhibit with a gentleman in Greece. So it's a global community of librarians, although, you know, many of us here, of course, are part of ALA and are in the U.S. So I'm just going to kind of zoom in so that they can get the idea. Although I don't have the greatest graphics today, I had to lower my resolution in order to hook up to this old projector. But each one of these people seated here are a librarian. And many of them are working on all kinds of projects, which is what we're going to talk with here about continuing with the projects upcoming. So let me get back to the agenda. The Community Virtual Library is going to actually talk with Tina about, you know, how we can provide the space for ALA now that ALA does not have a big space at their own island. But hopefully on Info Island, we will provide space for any kind of project that we all can work on together. And so let me move my slide forward. This slide here is just a brief overview of the meeting, which was held in Second Life on January 15th when we talked about meeting here at the ALA Midwinter in Dallas. This was a very spur-of-the-moment meeting, but a number of avatars, 23 people came, and we did a brief meeting talking about the current activity in Second Life, which, you know, these member interest groups have 110 members in one of them, and there's 812 members in the Librarians of Second Life group, over 4,000 members in the group of patrons in Second Life. Of course, then we have the Google group. The ACRL has 116 members. Over 400 libraries, educational facilities, and museums in Second Life. So all of the research is showing that virtual worlds are not going away. You know, there is a lot of exploration going on in other virtual worlds besides Second Life, but most of you who have read any of the current research understand that Second Life is still the leader for educational use. So that's where most people are going to learn the skills and then they take them elsewhere. So that's briefly what we talked about at the meeting. Okay. Let me see if Tina has looked over these questions. I think as she was speaking to you a few minutes ago, she probably answered most of these questions about why ALA Island was not renewed and, you know, what some of our goals are. But let me see if she has anything that she wants to add to that now that she's had a chance to look at these questions here.
I feel like I kind of covered most of what was on the list.
Okay, she's pretty much covered what, let me make sure I'm speaking. Tina believes she's pretty much covered everything that's on this list. So as I go through the rest of this agenda here, if something else comes up, you know, she'll be happy to answer some more questions for the group. Let me see if there's been any other questions here since I came back on voice. Okay, Second Life is your constituency? Thousands of people. Yes, there are thousands of people, not just librarians, but all types of disciplines are in Second Life virtual worlds. The leader in virtual worlds actually is children, so the next generation of library patrons are going to be very comfortable with this technology. But Second Life, yes, is still the leader for educational use, and everybody hears me. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. Okay, we do, for both of our groups, the ALA virtual member interest group and the ACRL, we do think it's really important, and I was speaking with Tina before this meeting, it's really important that we do schedule some ongoing regular scheduled meetings, because a lot of the librarians are working on their own on projects, and then a lot of it ends up not being documented, and so we don't really realize all of the great things that they are doing. And if we could gather some of those things through, she was talking about documenting our presentations, our publications, also sharing some of the machinima that we record, the video that record, all kinds of things like that. And so I think it's real important that we schedule some regular scheduled meetings. And so you can see here that we are going to have one. We've already scheduled. At that meeting of just a few weeks ago, it was decided that the second Sunday of each month would be a good starting point. So we're going to have a meeting on February 12th, 4 p.m. Pacific time. That would be Second Life time, Pacific time. And so right here at the same location on Info Island, we will have a meeting to address the organization, to really think about forming committees for programming and for publicity, and to document what it is that all the librarians are doing. Okay, so that's the time we'll start with, but as we see if that's not a good time for everybody, different committees, we can work on that. But that's the upcoming meeting that we do have already scheduled. All right, and moving on to our next slide. Next slide shows some of the meeting programming ideas that we talked about recently, and it's just rezzing. It's a little bit blurry here. At our meeting on January 15th, we talked about events on current information literacy topics, things like ebooks and digital content and all of the emerging technology in libraries, presentations on the Community Virtual Library and the Alexandrian Free Library, conference reports for those of us who can't attend. We talked about upcoming trends, augmented reality, and how that's impacting libraries. Tours within Second Life, immersive education presentations, and then also the idea of perhaps going on virtual world tours to other worlds. I know some of us realize that Pathfinder, who used to work for the Linden Labs, but he now has been taking some virtual tours to other virtual worlds like Jibe, Reaction Grid, Jokedia, the Open Sims that are all based on the Second Life source code. So perhaps some virtual world field trips to other virtual worlds, so that we're not tied to just the proprietary company of Linden Labs, but understand this technology for libraries of the future. So that's kind of an idea. And the new virtual world that's tied to Facebook, which is, I believe, it's going to be web-based, is Kitely. That might be another one to look at as far as for libraries. So also for our plans, thinking about programs with speakers in various areas of librarianship, both physical world and virtual world. And I think a really good example of that, the Texas Library Association, where I'm involved here in Texas, we've done 3 live tours of immersive museum-type simulations in historical sims, one for Virtual Texas, one for Virtual Tornado Simulation, and the one this weekend called Mayan Island Exhibit. And I believe Firewoman is here today. She's one of my colleagues that helped with that tour. So it's just kind of an example of the kinds of things that librarians are providing as virtual resources, similar to what we would provide in the physical world. Let me check the text chat here and see if anybody asked anything while I was explaining all these upcoming programs. Let's see. Yes, talking about, it looks like Clark said Machinima would be awesome as well. Recording sessions. It's great to upload sessions through Machinima, because that archives, and shows the kind of work that librarians are doing virtually. Sheila Weber, yes, she's in the UK, and she has conference presenters reprise their presentations in 1-hour sessions. That sounds very interesting as well. Yes, it sounds like Clark might be willing to upload and take some video. That's fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. I think I skipped one. Let me go back one. Okay, so the next slide is talking about the continued ALA presence, and I think Tina has already expressed, and I know we're all very happy to hear that ALA is very supportive of the work of librarians in virtual worlds, because all of us realize that whether you have an avatar or not, everyone today, or most everyone, has a virtual presence online. Whether the avatar is just beside the point. So physical world librarians and virtual world librarians are doing the same and similar types of work in both places. We wanted to talk about some of the support that we would like to see from ALA, acceptance of papers regarding virtual world librarianship for publication. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that, Tina?
Are papers being submitted and rejected, or I'm trying to see where I'm trying to understand where the fail is coming in.
Right, and I think Tina is concerned that, the ALA isn't the only place where we can submit this type of paper, and so, I'd like to know if there's anybody here that has submitted or, just doesn't realize that that's what we ought to be doing. Abby says, yes, I know of one instance where this happened. Abby and I have a book chapter on professional development in Second Life for librarians forthcoming. That's from Alexandra Knight, who's a retired librarian from UCLA. So, yeah, I think it's just important that we all remember that, the work here can be submitted, to publications. See if anyone else had some question on that topic. Okay, so that's one thing we need to be thinking about is more, journal papers and research work on virtual world librarianship to show what it is and document what librarians are doing. Streaming RL presentations, conference sessions to Second Life. Several of the presentations here this week at ALA Midwinter were definitely about digital content and streaming, and being able to sync that up with virtual worlds would definitely be a plus. Anything about that?
This is Tina again. There's a lot of issues that go into the legal issues that go into the streaming. A lot of it depends on how our contracts are set up with speakers and programming, and having the expertise on site at Midwinter to capture that information in such a way that it would be usable post. Because, as I've mentioned, a lot of people on staff aren't well versed enough in SL to know what they would need to do with the file post session in order to be able to rebroadcast it into SL. It's a lot easier now, and I can see what I can do with some of the non-licensed sessions. In terms of speakers, it usually comes down to a legal issue. We contract them to speak at the conference, and then there's usually an extra writer that is involved if we want to include them in the virtual conference that happens right after annual, and then adding another virtual aspect to it through SL would probably add more connotations, but I think that we could definitely start suggesting it. I know that ACRL has done a lot, and their virtual conference is pretty dynamic. So I think that that's definitely a place to start, possibly for if we can get the legwork done for the 2013 ACRL show, we should start looking at that as well. So that's what I wanted to kind of jump in and say on that one.
Okay, so I think Tina has addressed a bit about streaming and promoting what we're doing through ALA, and allowing us to promote virtual events through ALA channels. One thing we talked about earlier this afternoon is she would really like for us to use ALA Connect a little bit more often, and I did not realize that you don't have to be a member of ALA to utilize ALA Connect. So she's going to actually try to put a little bit about that through Twitter and Facebook, because I know a lot of librarians, will get access to that information that way. But if we could use ALA Connect, it might give us a little bit more of a presence, within the organization, and also document what we're doing within the organization. So hopefully, all of you, if you have not, will join ALA Connect as a social networking tool. Not that we don't have way too many social network tools, but I think it really might be a good instance to do that. Let me see if I've missed anything else here in the text chat.
I think we should give our real world
yes.
two participants a chance to ask any questions about the platform or about what librarianship is doing, or if you guys
yes.
had anything you wanted to know about
yes.
how things run.
It's fascinating. Is Second Life
you want to come up and
is
speak?
Second Life a commercial application?
Yes, it's Linden Labs puts
Okay.
it out.
We just had a question from one of the gentlemen here in the physical audience asking about Second Labs being a commercial application. And yes, it is, although it's free. Anyone can get an avatar. It doesn't cost any money. It only costs for the island itself, which...
Yeah, if you want to buy Restart, uploading textures and stuff like that. Uploading textures is only like 10 lindens, and I don't know what the exchange rate is at the moment, but it's
right. So it doesn't. It's very, very low
like
cost if you're not going to own your own
But it's
island.
not open source, it's proprietary.
It's proprietary, but now they've gone open source, so there are many virtual worlds. People come here to learn the code, and then go to other virtual worlds, because and it's free to build. If you go to a sandbox, you can build anything you want to build free and learn the building skills. And the librarians and educators are definitely willing to help with classes to teach how to do that. And,
I see Oberon made sure to comment. The full immersion experience costs. Don't sugarcoat it. We all think it's worth it.
Oh yes. I mean, it's
once you reach a certain point in terms of learning the platform, it's free to go in and learn how the platform works, which you definitely need to do. I mean, there is a learning curve with Second Life, being able to know how your avatar moves and being able to work with the virtual building tools and stuff like that. Is free, and I highly recommend it. I mean, even if you end up not doing anything with it at the moment, it's a good skill to have. So that part of it is.
And are there other platforms like Second Life?
I'm not sure you can hear his question. He's asking if there are other platforms like Second Life. And as I mentioned earlier, there are many for children, but most of them are commercial. Buy the toy, enter the virtual world.
Yeah, like
very commercial. Barbie.com, Penguin, Disney, Webkins, tons of children virtual worlds.
Yeah,
but for education, this is the main one.
Worlds of Warcraft is sort of like between a video game and where Second Life is. Blue Mars, I think, is that still going?
No, Blue Mars. Well, I don't know if anyone there knows about Blue Mars, but I'm pretty sure it has gone. There's a lot of business applications. VenueGen, 3D Explorer, a lot of businesses are using it, but they don't give you the building tools. Everyone looks the same, and it's very, very sterile environment.
So like this whole environment, the stage, the screens, the steps, even the clothing that people are wearing, and the idea of hair and stuff like that. There are people that make those things, and then in terms of in the non-library community, there's a whole other community in Second Life of people that sell clothing, sell buildings that they build, or just fun stuff. So there's a whole economy that goes on.
So we're taking part of the gaming world and moving it into a
yes.
Yes, and it's very easy to mistake Second Life for a game. And there are games that happen in Second Life. There are like video games essentially where people will build all of the framework that you need to run, and it ends up being a little more like role-playing games because you have to yes, exactly. Well, and you have to like create everything that goes into that game, and the game is only what you put into it. But Second Life is like that.
So my question would be, for educational purposes, is the fact that it's like a game make it appealing to younger learners?
You're the school librarian.
I can address that. I'm a school librarian, but my school, of course, does not allow this yet because Second Life for a long time was only 18 and up. Now they're opening it to 13, but I'm a K-5, school librarian. But the next generation is very comfortable with this. Personally, I took a class from the University of Washington, the certificate in virtual worlds, and graduated in a cap and gown on my avatar. And the whole idea of it was you can learn basically here around the world, globally around the world, in a very immersive way. So it's just anything you can think of, anything that's beyond your imagination, whatever you want to build, you can build, and whatever you want to teach,
I think it's important to also mention the history of Second Life. Before the 13-year-olds were allowed on the main field, there was a whole separate teen Second Life. So teens were regulated because you had to go through a background check if you were an adult and you wanted to go into onto the teen group, go through the background check. There was lots of hoops that you had to jump through to make sure that you could have access to those teens. So it was something that teachers did. But then the librarians couldn't make that transition as well. So there is there's a precedent already for younger kids learning in Excel.
Can you create, and you can obviously create a closed virtual world.
You can close your sim.
Members only virtual world.
That's what OpenSim does, isn't it?
She's taking some pictures here as we're going. Yes, you can create your own closed one, and that's what some of the educators are doing. She's giving me a lot of pictures here. I'll have to get these off the screen. A lot of educators are going to the open source code sims because they are a little bit safer. You don't run into strangers, you know, and that's the reason that my district hasn't allowed me to open up virtual worlds, because, you know, it's just too many strangers.
So,
you know?
I mean, can anyone come into any?
There can be a closed community where no one can get in, but a lot of the educational places, and like the library, anyone can come. And it's very rare, but once in a while you will get a griefing incident where somebody wants to come in, like a game with guns. But personally, I've been in Second Life for about 5 years, and I've never, ever had a griefing incident. But I stay to the educational sims, you know, that are just educational areas. You've had it? Okay.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make it like for your class, could you limit it to only the students in that class?
They have islands like that now.
Yes, the audience is asking if you can limit a space in a virtual world for a class. And yes, that's true. There are a lot of classes where no one can enter except the people enrolled in that course. You know, so.
You mentioned the workout that you can share virtually. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what types of projects you can?
Okay, he's asking a question about what types of projects people work on. Do you want to know projects library specific or education or both?
Yeah. Okay. The chat is going to explode.
The chat's going to explode. You all can, you're free to, in real short, think Twitter here, think Twitter. Here's the chat. If all of you could type in an example of an educational or library project that you have done in Second Life, so that we can share that with our audience, but make it real short, so because I'm going to scroll down the chat. So if you'll scroll down.
So while that's going, I can say, I mean, we've done everything from the ALS standpoint to professional development. We've run an entire 2-day virtual conference in Second Life that included speakers, book talks, social engagements, and sessions. So that's kind of the scope of the sort of things. And the libraries are doing art exhibits. Even outside of the library community, the art community is probably the second largest community in itself. Kinetic things. So, I mean, there's a lot of types of things. I mean, once you get versed.
Okay, it looks like they've talked a little bit about the griefing, sex, and violence, and someone mentions here that you have to go look for it, just like you would in real life. And in real life, you know, you get what you type in. If you go somewhere, you're going to find that. I haven't found that personally, but I just didn't type it in. But now there are, what we asked is for you to type in a little something that you have done as an example, and I can speak to that as far as Firewoman and I, as I said, have done some virtual exhibits where you immerse, like the Texas Alamo one. Everyone came dressed from the historical time of the Alamo, visited a wonderful replica of the Alamo, toured the Texas State Capitol, and all of this recreation in a historical sim. So if I can see that children in the future will be able to not just open the book, but enter the book. Mm-hmm. Rather than enter play the games where you're shooting people, you can actually enter a historical period and learn about it. So it's sort of like serious gaming, you know, as a learning opportunity.
They just have to build it. Okay. Yeah, you don't have to go in and mess up the code at all. You just build your shapes.
Right, he's asking now about building, and in the class that I took for the certificate in virtual worlds, we had to actually learn how to build. I had to build a house. I had to make things move. It's really called scripting. You build in basic little primitive shapes, and then you drop a script in, and that makes the things move. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not really a programmer, so you know, if I can learn it, students I know could learn this. It's fairly, you know, it's very pretty user friendly. Here's a couple of the examples: building a Portuguese center, teaching how to use virtual worlds. Antiquity, Texas. Firewoman helped me with that tour of the virtual Alamo. Book exhibits, library collections. Let's see, teaching library and information students to build interactive exhibits for sharing information in a virtual world.
The 1920s Berlin sim.
Yes, there are a lot of historical sims. Mm-hmm. Tina's explaining some of the historical sims.
In terms of not only tangentially related to the library community, somebody had built the Globe Theater, and they put on Shakespeare plays. So they had gotten actors to come in and they did them over voice chat like we're doing this meeting, and they had their avatars completely dressed up for the performance. And they had that was. I'm so sad that it's gone now. But
yes, some of them, you know, are gone now that were built. But you know that happens in the physical world too. You know, it's a great thing. Then suddenly
the real
it's just
theaters.
right. It happens. But some of them are still there. Some of the immersive historical replicas, and like the Mayan Island that we did a tour of, it's on display right now at the community virtual library. Now, the future is now, what Oberon is mentioning, that was a conference in Second Life to talk about future trends. Virtual worlds are wonderful for conferences, just like we're here in this room, but it costs a lot of money for all of us to travel and hotel. You can attend here and not have that expense. Mm-hmm. And it's very similar.
Yeah, and one of our speakers for that conference was an author that lives in France.
So I wonder if other people in the meeting feel that librarians are leading the charge here, or are there educators who are also getting engaged by this?
Okay, we just had a question here if librarians are leading the charge here, or if educators are as well, you know, exploring this technology. And personally, I'd have to say that both of them are very much. There are a lot of universities that have presence in Second Life. The problem is the K-12 has not been able to get on board because of the privacy concerns, the security concerns. So it's usually colleges and universities, the educators that are very active in virtual worlds.
See, and you can use this technology.
Second Life's been around. Was it 2003 when it came out? I found out about it through ALA, yeah. Jenny Levine's blog back in 2006. That's when I came in.
2006. And it was it was in beta for 2 years, and then when it opened up really to the public, was 2005.
Some other examples that they're putting on here, MLS students going virtual poster sessions. I've been doing research virtually at a symposium in Second Life, sharing research, you know, both at the physical campus and then in the virtual campus. So,
do you still have a First Life?
Absolutely, I'm a full-time school librarian.
She's here at conference.
Full-time school librarian. So, you know, you can, you know, we all have the online life that we have to do on the side. You know, it's a balancing act. That's true.
I mean, honestly,
yes, it's very immersive.
About as much time on Twitter as I would on SL. So.
Okay, and then we have Mystery Manor holding book discussions and exhibits, mystery writers. A lot of librarians take what their role in librarianship is and then, you know, offer it here as well. And so it's kind of a blend of both. Mm-hmm. Book discussions are wonderful because you get people all over the globe. Okay.
The streaming capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is it pretty, how does that work pretty well?
Honestly,
they've made it so ridiculously easy now.
It used to be a lot harder.
Each one of, like, that square is called a prim, and you can
show a video right here.
Like, I could put in a YouTube link, just like you know, you click the link on share, you paste it in
your meeting, and I'm afraid as newbies we're probably distracting them. So.
No, that's fine. I'll make sure that you guys get my business card too, so I can answer any questions that you have after the fact too. So.
Okay, then other people are talking about presentations via computer hooked up to a projector. That's kind of what we're doing here. We have the projector up so people can see it in world. Library conferences, professional development, presenting research and reviewing articles in international journal clubs. Here's a librarian that created rainbow gardens for people to memorialize their pets in a virtual environment, exhibits and programs there. Here's an interactive exhibit on Victorian social dance with connections to American Memory Project dance album. Interesting.
Okay, we should probably move to ACRL business.
Oh yes, okay, we've had a lot, we've shown them a lot, and that could go on and on and on. So look at all these things. Okay, a lot, but we need to move on to the next slide. There's just, I would love to just address each one of these great examples of all the things that all of you have done. I'm just going on and on and on. 3D structures, Sistine Chapel, all kinds of things. This text chat will be recorded, so there's a Google group that you can join to get all of this information. It's called the Alliance Second Life Google group. Okay, so I will move on to the next slide, so we can finish our meeting here. Oh. I think I've got to the end of my slides, so let me see what else we've talked about.
ACRL.
ACRL. The ACRL business, maybe I skipped over that one. Let me back up just a little bit to be sure I've discussed ACRL for those of you that are involved in that group. Being a little slow here. Okay, the ACRL, Abby is saying, okay. Oh, if you would like to leave your email addresses, we'd be happy to send you the text chat. If you want to go down on your piece of paper here, we can send them the transcript by email of this meeting. That way you can see all of those wonderful projects the librarians were listing. All right, I was on this slide earlier, but might not have made it clear that I will be the chair actually for both of the groups. And then if someone else, wants to come along and help out with the member interest group, that would be great. I'm willing to, separate the two groups. But for now, I will be chairing both of them. And as I said, Marcia has already given me a list of all the wonderful things that ACRL has done this past year. Numerous programs, conferences, speakers, and we want to continue that to provide. Oh, okay. Abby's clarifying on that. Please clarify, Abby. Oh, okay. Wonderful, wonderful. That's great because it might be difficult for me to chair both. It looks like Abby is and Puglet are going to be chairing the member interest group, and I will be chairing the ACRL, and that's great to know because that takes a bit of my workload off. Thank you for clarifying that, Abby. That's terrific. Let me just get my inventory window closed here. It's kind of in the way. Okay, so do we have any other questions about either group? Are we all clear then on where we're going? I will be getting with Marcia, and we will be sending out information to everybody that's involved in the ACRL about upcoming presentations, goals for the upcoming year, all of that. And Abby and Puglet will be letting everybody know then for the member interest group, where we're going to meet and what the goals are for the upcoming there. And we'll all be in touch with Tina as far as ALA, and Abby will be getting with her about space on the island and all of that. Let me look and see if there's any other.
I'm going to clean up the Connect group.
Okay.
And get that ready for us.
So Hyacinth, who has been the former ACRL leader, is saying that we've been meeting about once a month, usually on Sundays at 11 a.m. So I will get with her and see if that's still going to work for us, and we will, we'll see how we're going to meet for ACRL. They're saying thanks for all you do, Tina, and yay, Tina here. So we're very happy to hear that ALA still, has definitely wants to be supportive of the work of the Virtual World Librarians. And so let me see if anybody else has any other questions that I have not covered for either group. We will be meeting, both groups will be meeting at ALA in Anaheim in the summer. So we really do want to get, document everything that's been being done between now and that meeting so that we can really show, what the Community Virtual Library is all about. And Tina she's going to be there at that meeting, and I will be there, and hopefully a lot of you will be there. So, we will really try to document the work of Virtual World Librarians. Any other questions from you all, or any other questions from the audience here? Okay. I think that they are just kind of observing this for the first time, so I know sometimes I don't want to make people seasick by swinging my camera around too quickly, but let's see if anybody else has something to say here in text chat. They're saying, please join us in Second Life. It was a great meeting. People ought to check out the Mayo Clinic in Second Life. I might mention that too. There are uses outside education and libraries, such as, the military uses it for training, for soldiers, and for rehabilitation when they come back, and a lot of medical uses as far as medical simulations. A lot of Virtual Ability Island is a place, there's a lot of people who may have physical handicaps, which are irrelevant when you're in a virtual world. And you can have, it really is kind of a satisfying experience to be able to do anything that maybe your body is limited. So there's just a lot of things that you might not think about that are possible within virtual worlds.
Now they're on the trend of recommending things. So
Okay, so I see some
they can do
recommendations.
that forever.
Yes, we're seeing some recommendations here. Virtual Ability Island, University of Incarnate Word has nursing training. That's an interesting one. Stanford University Islands, great and expanding. Okay. And I already mentioned the University of Washington. They had the Cybersecurity Island the year that I graduated, dealing with all of the things that, are cybersecurity threats. We had like a house of illusion where you'd go in and learn about phishing scams and malware and things like that. And then Maya Island was this year's project for the University of Washington. We're talking about University of Hawaii with astronomy, meditation centers. Let's see, Canadian Border Patrol.
Yeah.
I believe
There's all kinds.
NASA. There's the International Flight Museum,
Yes.
space flight. You can ride a
Robotics
rocket.
museum.
Robotics. And then Alexandria is saying, please volunteer to do a poster session in Second Life for her MLIS students. So her email's there if you're interested in helping out with a poster session.
Okay.
Oh, the virtual tsunami. That's a really, really educational.
They've done that twice now.
Yes, and you can. Well, I think it's still there. You go and it simulates a tsunami coming and just destroying everything around you. So students can get the feel, what that would be like.
One of the things, and this is sort of a historical event in itself, after the big tsunami in 2000, what year was it, 2007? 2006, somewhere around there, the one that happened in December. And everybody was talking about it and everything. Linden Labs did a tsunami throughout all of that cell. So all of that cell was underwater for like 2 days, was it? Had you heard about that? When they did the virtual tsunami that took the entire, they flooded the entire grid.
Oh, that would be, that's a cool simulation.
So that was like the other kind of cool awareness type stuff that they've done. That was a pretty cool event.
Okay, and Clark is talking about the bibliotech Francophone, I hope I said that right, and the replica of real-life libraries, like the new library of Birmingham and the one from Baviera State in Germany. There's a lot of international, museums and replicas of Sistine Chapel, which you can, zoom your camera right up and see, so.
Okay.
All right, so let's see if Tina has anything else we'd like to say here in
I'll take over your avatar for one more.
Tina's going to take over my avatar and speak again. So here she comes.
Okay, I just wanted one more opportunity to kind of let you guys know. I'm going to go in after Midwinter is over and I have my collapse days. I'm going to go into the Connect group for the member interest group and clean that up a little bit and kind of get it sorted out into projects and useful resources that the group can then start contributing to. And I'll probably send the URL over to both the ALA group and the Second Life Librarians group. So I encourage you all to join those groups when you see that come through or beforehand if you get the chance, and make sure that we start doing some stuff through Connect, because that's going to be a great not in-world way for us to share information and see projects come to fruition, and also allow people like the folks we have here in the real life room some baby steps to get into participating in the group and see what's going on, and it also give me the opportunity to be able to point ALA at stuff that we're doing. And the other thing that I had mentioned to Val when she and I had talked earlier is that I want this group to get together a survey specifically for the library community in SL. So we can kind of take the temperature of the community and see what everybody is working on and where they think the directions are going and what kind of things we should be working on. So we kind of don't waste any effort and focus on the things that we need to focus on. So be aware that this is going to be a project that I'm going to be putting for participation in and dissemination of the survey URL, and then also sharing the results once they come in. So I'm kind of giving you a heads up of work that I have for you to do. And I think that was pretty much everything that I wanted to make sure to cover. Everything else we kind of covered already. So I will now turn Val back over to Val.
Okay, I was reading in the text chat while she was talking a little bit about social media groups, the Facebook group and different things like that. And perhaps we can talk about that later and kind of consolidate and decide, which ones we really, really want to promote, because we don't want to have too many places. It looks like ALA has a Facebook page. We'll try to send the ALA Connect information to Facebook and Twitter, and then sort of decide which one's the main one that we want to use, because it's really difficult when we have so many different social networks. But that's probably a conversation we can talk about maybe at our next meeting. And I read earlier in the chat also about compiling these great landmarks at the reference desk. I know we've talked about that before, but it's really important that we try to make note cards and keep them current. So that's something we can address at our meeting too, how to keep current note cards for landmarks that show all the educational places in Second Life, because we all know that the Second Life search isn't always the best for educational sims and immersive learning environments. And so that's a really important project that we need. And I know Firewoman has talked to me before about helping as mentors, educational mentors, and that's something at our meetings as well. And I see you're talking a bit about the blog too. So we can address all of our social media, the blog, and the best ways that we can connect and share what it is that we're doing, perhaps at our next meeting. Is ALA on Twitter? I know ALA Library Val is on Twitter. She's Valerie Hawkins. We'll have to see what the best Twitter spot.
The MIG does not have a Twitter, but I don't see why we couldn't have one.
We could probably start a Twitter just for the member interest group, if we want to. So
we can open that to discussion and figure out what the best lay of the land is for that.
Right. Maybe at our next meeting, we could really talk about the social media and what's the best way to consolidate it so that we're not all on a different page. Because I'm sure different people have good ideas about Twitter and all of that. The next meeting, I believe we have it on here. It's February 12th. Make sure I got the time here. We decided to meet again on February 12th at, somebody see it on the time there? 4 p.m. Second Life time. Right. Firewoman's got it. February, and we'll be sending out a notice to the Google group and to all the groups to remind you of that meeting. And then we'll discuss there about time zones and maybe offering different options, because it isn't fair really if we always have it at the same time and people have to get up in the middle of the night. So that's different. And for the audience, it's always Pacific time. Second Life is always Pacific time. So, people who live in around the world, it's sometimes difficult, they have to get up in the middle of the night for some of these things.
You get to know your friends based on what time you're awake.
So yes, the ACRL, that meeting we're talking about is for the member interest group. I will be getting with Hyacinth, and we will be sending out information about the ACRL and when our first group's going to be. Today we'll just set the meeting for the member interest group. I think you all already said that, so we'll get with you later for ACRL, if that sounds okay. Okay, so is there anything else, or should we wrap this up so we can maybe give them a couple more
chance
to ask any other questions? Yeah. Okay, we are going to wrap up this meeting here, and we're going to answer a few more questions for the gentlemen that are here in the audience. And it sounds like Abby's going to send out the transcript. She's doing that. Just going to stand up here and walk over so they can see what that's all about. And I'm going to log off and thank all of you for coming here. I think this was a great turnout, and we've said it many times before. All these people here in this audience that I'm showing our library colleagues are really virtual pioneers and are exploring really something that's kind of the way libraries may work in the future, whether it's physical or virtual. We're all excited about the future of librarianship. So thank you, everyone, and it was my pleasure to lend my avatar to Tina. Okay. Bye, everybody. See you later.